What if I told you the universe does not respond to your wishes, your words, or even your hard work, but to something far more subtle, something hidden beneath every thought you have ever had? What if everything you have ever wanted, the love, the wealth, the peace, hasn't been kept from you, but waiting patiently for you to tune yourself into it? My name is Daniel, and what I am about to reveal about the law of attraction is something most people will never truly understand. Not because it is complicated, but because it demands the one thing we avoid most: complete awareness of what we are actually broadcasting to the universe. For years I believed I understood manifestation. I repeated affirmations, wrote down goals, and visualized my dream life. But the harder I tried, the further those dreams drifted away. Then, one night, I met a man who changed everything I thought I knew about the mind. He wasn't famous. He had no courses, no followers, no stage. He lived quietly in the hills outside Los Angeles. People whispered that he could manifest anything, not through magic, but by mastering something he called the emotional signature. I first met him at a small gathering. No microphone, no spotlight, just a circle of people sitting in stillness. When I introduced myself, he looked directly at me and said, "You don't believe in the law of attraction. You're trying to use it." That single sentence shattered everything I thought I knew. I had studied the law for years and believed that faith meant reciting positive phrases and ignoring doubt. But he saw through me immediately. He told me, "You don't attract what you think. You attract what you feel is already yours, even when you're not thinking about it." At first I resisted the idea. I believed that if I could control my thoughts, the universe would deliver. But he shook his head gently and said, "The universe doesn't listen to words. It reads your vibration, the emotional frequency you live in every moment of every day. That is your real command to creation." That night I realized my so-called positive thinking was built on fear. The fear that if I stopped trying, everything would collapse. I wasn't manifesting abundance. I was broadcasting lack. Every affirmation I repeated carried the hidden message, "I don't have it yet." The next day I returned to see him again. He asked me what I really wanted. I said, "Freedom, financial, emotional, spiritual freedom." He nodded slowly and replied, "Then stop chasing it. You're chasing your own shadow." From that moment, he began to teach me what he called the law behind the law of attraction. He explained that most people misunderstand this universal law completely. They think attraction is about pulling things toward you, money, people, opportunities, but the universe is not responding to your desires. It is reflecting the state of being you occupy right now. You can't attract abundance while feeling scarcity, he said. You can't attract love while broadcasting loneliness. You can't attract peace while rehearsing chaos in your mind. Every thought, emotion, and reaction is a frequency, and that frequency doesn't attract what you want. It reveals what you already believe you are. If you want to manifest something new, he said, you must stop reacting to what is and start responding from what you've chosen to become. I was puzzled. How can I act like I already have something when I clearly don't? He smiled. You're not pretending. You're remembering. The moment you feel the desire, it already exists. Your only task is to become the version of you who's already living it. Those words haunted me for days until I realized that everything in my life, every success, every failure, every relationship was a mirror of my inner frequency. When I was desperate for money, I repelled it because my vibration screamed I don't have enough. When I longed for love, I attracted people who confirmed my loneliness. When I sought peace, I found chaos, because that was the signal I was unconsciously sending. He called this process the magnetic loop. Whatever emotion dominates your consciousness becomes the magnet that draws experiences to confirm it. Change the emotion, and you change the magnet. Change the magnet, and you change your entire reality. But before you can shift your frequency, you must first see what you're truly radiating, and that's where most people stop. Sit quietly for 10 minutes a day and listen, he said, not to the world, but to your own energy. What do you actually feel when you think about money? What emotion stirs when you picture love? What vibration arises when you imagine peace? At first, I didn't like what I found. Beneath the surface of my affirmations was a river of doubt, guilt, and fear. My mind could lie, but my emotional vibration never did. He told me, the law of attraction doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you are. The universe can only echo your emotional truth. Then he gave me a challenge. For 7 days, stop asking for anything. Don't visualize, don't affirm, don't seek. Simply feel gratitude as if everything you desire already exists right now. It sounded too simple, but I agreed. The first few days were hard. My mind kept trying to correct the illusion. When bills arrived, it whispered, "You don't have enough." When plans fell through, it said, "See? It's not working." But each time that voice appeared, I remembered his instruction. Don't fight the thought, don't chase the feeling, just return to gratitude. By the 4th day, something inside me shifted. I woke up feeling lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted. I wasn't trying to control anything anymore. I simply felt at peace. My small apartment hadn't changed, but it felt alive somehow, as if the world itself was responding to my new vibration. That evening, I received a call from a client I hadn't heard from in months who offered me a project paying double my usual rate. Was it coincidence? Perhaps. But deep down, I knew something had changed. The following week, I returned to see the man. He didn't ask what happened. He simply said, "You've changed your broadcast." And he was right. I wasn't chasing outcomes anymore. I was aligned with the feeling of already having them. He told me, most people live their entire lives as transmitters of lack. They hope the law of attraction will fix their situation, but they never realize they're the ones programming the signal. You can't send out scarcity and receive abundance. You can't radiate fear and receive love. You must first become the vibration of what you wish to experience. That was the beginning of everything. After that day, my lessons with him deepened. He never called what he taught a practice or a technique. He called it alignment. He said, "You're not learning how to manifest. You're remembering how creation already works through you." Every conversation with him felt like being handed a mirror that reflected parts of myself I didn't want to see. He never spoke about external action, about hustling, planning, or effort. His focus was always the inner broadcast, the unseen energy that determined every visible outcome. One evening, as we sat overlooking the city lights, I asked him what he believed separated those who seemed to manifest effortlessly from those who struggled for years. He smiled and said, "The difference is not desire, nor intelligence, nor luck. The difference is identity. Some people try to attract what they want. Others assume they already are what they want. The universe always mirrors identity, not intention." Those words cut straight through me. I realized how often I had tried to get, attract, or achieve without ever shifting who I was being. My mind was filled with strategies, but my vibration remained one of seeking. And as long as I was seeking, I could never become the one who had found. He told me to start noticing how often my words betrayed my vibration. Every time I said, "I hope," "I need," or "I'm trying," I was announcing to the universe that I did not yet have. Every complaint, every moment of frustration was a confession of lack. The more I examined my thoughts, the more I saw how deeply scarcity had woven itself into my consciousness. I realized that I didn't just think poor. I felt poor, I spoke poor, I moved poor. I carried the vibration of insufficiency in every breath. That's when he gave me the most difficult assignment of all. "From this moment on," he said, "you must speak only as the one who already has. You must think from the place of completion, not towards it. Every word, every thought, every reaction must arise from the frequency of having, not wanting." It was harder than I imagined. At first it felt unnatural, even dishonest. My mind protested constantly. You can't say you're wealthy when your account says otherwise. You can't feel loved when you're alone. But he had warned me of that resistance. He said, "Your old self will fight for its life. It will do everything to prove that you are still the person of limitation, but it has no real power. It survives only as long as you keep identifying with it." I began practicing what he called emotional embodiment. It meant not simply thinking about abundance, but living from it inwardly. I woke up each morning and asked myself, if I were already the person who has everything I desire, how would I feel right now? I didn't force an answer. I allowed the feeling to rise naturally. At first it was faint, a whisper of confidence, a subtle calm. But as I practiced, it grew stronger. I noticed my reactions shifting. When unexpected bills appeared, I no longer felt panic. When opportunities seemed uncertain, I no longer felt desperate. Something inside me had stabilized. I was beginning to live from a new vibration. One day, I asked him how to know when this new state had truly taken root. He said, when you no longer need evidence to believe, when your peace no longer depends on results, that's when you've changed your frequency. He explained that manifestation is not about forcing reality. It's about matching it. The outer world must align with the vibration you sustain within yourself. But the universe always checks one thing first, your emotional consistency. The universe doesn't respond to a moment of high energy, he said. It responds to the dominant frequency of your consciousness. You can visualize for 5 minutes, but if you doubt for the remaining hours, you are still broadcasting lack. That sentence revealed to me why so many people say the law of attraction doesn't work. It's not that it fails. It's that we don't remain tuned long enough for reality to catch up. As my understanding deepened, he began sharing stories of others who had mastered this law. One was a woman who had come to him years before. She was in her late 50s, struggling financially and emotionally. Everything seemed to be falling apart at once. She had read every book on manifestation, but nothing worked. He told her exactly what he told me. Stop asking, stop wishing, and simply assume the feeling of already being supported. Every night before bed, she repeated one phrase to herself. Isn't it wonderful? Something amazing is happening to me now. She didn't visualize specific details. She only held the emotion of gratitude as if her miracle was already unfolding. 2 months later, she received a letter from a family member she hadn't spoken to in decades. Inside was a note and a check for $10,000. But that was only the beginning. Over the next few years, her life completely transformed. New home, new work, new relationships, all following the same pattern of unexpected ease. When he finished the story, he said, she didn't change her world. She changed her frequency, and her world adjusted itself. He also told me about a man who came to him convinced the world was unfairly set against him. This man had evidence of his hardships, and he carried them like proof. He believed he was trapped by the circumstances of his past, by the economy, by others' opinions. He said, I've tried everything and nothing works. My teacher responded, that's because your belief that nothing works has become your signal. You are broadcasting the failure frequency. At first, the man argued. He said, you can't ignore reality. But my teacher replied, reality is an echo. It can only reflect what you've already sent out. Slowly, this man began to understand. He started observing his daily reactions without judgment. He noticed how often he expected rejection before it happened, how he spoke about limitation as if it were law. And each time he caught himself, he made a small shift. Instead of saying, I can't afford this, he began saying, I'm choosing differently right now. Instead of saying, no one ever helps me, he began saying, I am always supported. Within 2 years, his entire life transformed. He went from a series of unstable jobs to creating a business that provided more than enough. He had not changed the outer world. He had changed the identity through which he met it. Listening to these stories, I began to see that the law of attraction was never about controlling external events, but about rearranging consciousness. The moment you change your identity, everything connected to the old one begins to dissolve. My teacher called this the death of the former self. He said, you cannot serve two frequencies. One must fade for the other to live. At first, I resisted letting go of my old identity because it felt familiar, even comfortable in its misery. It gave me something to complain about, something to fix. But as I practiced living from the new vibration, I began to feel compassion for that old version of myself. It wasn't wrong, it was simply incomplete. It was the self that needed struggle to feel alive. The new self didn't need to prove anything. It simply was. He warned me, however, that this transformation would test me. The universe will echo your past frequency one last time, he said. It's not a sign of failure. It's the clearing of what no longer matches you. If you react as the old self, you'll fall back. But if you remain steady, you'll pass through to the new level. And he was right. A few weeks later, I faced what seemed like a complete setback. A major client backed out of a deal that I was depending on. For a moment, panic rose up inside me. The old self screamed, "See? It's happening again." But something inside me stayed calm. I remembered his words, "Don't react. Respond from your new identity." I took a deep breath and simply said to myself, "All is unfolding perfectly. I am always provided for." I refused to let my vibration slip back into fear. 3 days later, another opportunity appeared, bigger, smoother, and more aligned than the one I had lost. That was the moment I truly understood the mechanism of the law of attraction. It wasn't a trick. It was a law of resonance. Life was not happening to me. It was responding through me. Over the months that followed, I practiced this alignment until it became second nature. Each day, I would sit quietly, close my eyes, and breathe from the awareness that everything I desired already existed. I learned to stop needing proof, to stop chasing results. The more peaceful I became, the more life arranged itself effortlessly around that peace. People began to call it luck, coincidence, timing, but I knew better. It was alignment, the natural outcome of emotional frequency. And as I began teaching others what I had learned, I saw the same miracles repeat again and again. One woman attracted her dream partner after releasing years of resentment. Another man doubled his income by changing his emotional response to money. The outer details differed, but the principle never failed. Change the feeling, and you change the field. One evening, as we closed another session, I asked my teacher a final question. "If this law is so simple, why do so few ever live it?" He smiled softly and said, "Because most people are afraid to let their old self die. They are attached to their struggle, to their story, to the comfort of effort. They think if they stop fighting, they'll lose everything. But the opposite is true. When you surrender the fight, you step into flow." That was the truth that finally set me free. I understood that the law of attraction isn't about asking the universe for favors. It's about remembering that you and the universe are the same field of consciousness. What you radiate becomes reality. What you feel becomes form. The only limit that ever existed was the one sustained by vibration. From that day forward, I made a promise to live as the version of myself who already had everything I once chased. And as I did, something extraordinary began to happen. Opportunities flowed easily. Money came through unexpected channels. People appeared out of nowhere offering help, connections, and gifts. The more I aligned internally, the more the external world danced to my rhythm. That's when I realized the law of attraction isn't about effort or control. It's about harmony. The universe is a symphony, and you are the conductor. The melody you play within determines the song life plays back to you. As my understanding of the law of attraction matured, my teacher's words began to take on a new depth. He once told me, "When you no longer chase reality, reality begins to chase you." At the time, it sounded poetic, but I would soon learn it was the most accurate description of how this law truly works. The moment you stop reaching outward and begin radiating inward alignment, the universe reorganizes itself to match you. It cannot do otherwise because you and it are not separate. You are part of the same energetic equation. The vibration you sustain becomes the command creation obeys. That was the essence of what he had been trying to show me all along. He never wanted me to learn how to manifest. He wanted me to remember that I was always manifesting. The only question was, from which state of being? One afternoon, he invited me to walk with him through a local market. The place was alive with color, sound, and movement. He stopped suddenly, pointed to a vendor arguing with a customer, and said, "You see, That is a perfect example of attraction in motion. Both of them are vibrating at the same frequency of frustration. That's why they found each other in this moment. If either had been in harmony, the encounter would never have occurred. He then turned to me and said quietly, "The same happens in every aspect of life. We meet only those who match our broadcast. Change your inner frequency, and the people, events, and outcomes connected to your old signal will simply fade away." At that instant, I felt something awaken inside me. I saw life not as random coincidence, but as a perfectly tuned feedback loop of my own consciousness. I began to observe how quickly my internal state could shift what showed up externally. When I felt rushed, delays appeared. When I felt calm, everything flowed smoothly. The more I paid attention, the more obvious it became that the world was not separate from me. It was a mirror reflecting the quality of my energy. I shared this realization with my teacher, and he nodded approvingly. "Now you are beginning to see," he said. "The law of attraction is not about creating something new. It is about aligning with what already exists in potential. Every version of you, every outcome, every timeline is already alive in consciousness. Your vibration determines which one you tune into." He paused for a moment before adding, "That is why gratitude is so powerful. It places you in resonance with completion. When you are grateful, you are declaring to the universe that you already have, and the universe must echo that truth." That night, I decided to experiment further. I sat quietly in my room and closed my eyes. I imagined nothing specific. I simply felt gratitude, not for anything in particular, but for the very act of being alive. I let the feeling expand until it filled my entire awareness. It was a simple exercise, yet something profound began to happen. My body felt weightless, my breath effortless. For the first time, I understood what it meant to exist in pure allowing. There was no resistance, no doubt, no longing. Just an unshakable sense of being taken care of by something vast and intelligent. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I had never felt before. I looked around and realized that nothing had changed outwardly, yet everything felt different. The colors seemed brighter, the air lighter, the day somehow friendlier. It wasn't the world that had changed. It was me. I had entered a new frequency of perception, and the world was responding accordingly. Weeks turned into months, and as I continued to live in that state, my life began to reflect it in undeniable ways. Opportunities appeared without effort. People I had once struggled to impress began to seek me out. Financial stability arrived through channels I could never have predicted. The more I let go of control, the more control I seemed to gain, not by force, but by alignment. My teacher once said, "The universe doesn't reward effort. It responds to ease. Effort says, 'I don't have it yet.' Ease says, 'I already am it.'" I understood now why so many people fail to manifest their desires. They approach the process from struggle, and struggle can only reproduce itself. To attract abundance, you must feel abundant before the evidence appears. To attract love, you must feel worthy of it before it arrives. The feeling comes first. The form follows. During one of our final meetings, I asked him, "What happens when someone masters this completely? When they no longer react to circumstances at all?" He smiled, the corners of his eyes softening. "Then they no longer need to manifest," he said. "They live in constant fulfillment. They stop asking because they know they already are the answer. That is the true secret of creation, not to attract what you want, but to become the consciousness that already has it." His words carried a quiet finality. I knew he had given me everything he could. The rest was for me to experience. Soon after, I felt an intuitive nudge to travel. Something within told me that my time of learning in that small house on the hillside was complete. When I told him I was leaving, he only said, "Then you're finally ready to teach." I protested at first. "Teach what?" "I'm still learning," he chuckled. "That's all teaching is, sharing what you are still remembering." I thanked him, and he embraced me like a father sending his child into the world. As I walked away, he called out, "Remember, Daniel, you don't create with thought alone. You create with the frequency of being. Keep your vibration pure, and everything else will follow." Those were the last words I ever heard him speak. After I left, the outer world felt different. I noticed how easily people around me still fought their own reflection, blaming luck, timing, and others for what they were experiencing. I wanted to tell them all, you are not trapped by your conditions. Your conditions are trapped by your vibration. But I realized that understanding cannot be forced. It must unfold naturally, the way dawn replaces darkness, not with struggle, but by simply being brighter. So instead of trying to convince others, I began living the teaching quietly, allowing results to speak for themselves. And they did. People started asking how I seemed so calm, how things always worked out for me, how opportunities seemed to follow me. When I explained the truth, most brushed it off as coincidence. A few listened, practiced, and began to witness their own miracles. Those few became the next wave of teachers, and in that way, the lineage of this understanding continued, passed not through institutions, but through consciousness itself. Over the years, I realized something my teacher never directly said but always implied. The law of attraction is not a law of gain. It's a law of reflection. It doesn't add anything to your life. It mirrors what you already hold within. Every person you meet, every event that unfolds, is the echo of your dominant vibration. When you understand this, you stop fighting the world and begin adjusting the only thing that ever truly mattered, your inner frequency. You stop asking, how can I make this happen? And start asking, who must I become for this to be natural? The answer to that question is always the key. I began teaching this idea to small groups, first in living rooms, then in online gatherings. I told them all the same thing. You are already broadcasting every moment of your life. Your emotions are the language the universe speaks fluently. When you feel aligned, grateful, and fulfilled, the universe translates that as more, please. When you feel anxious, desperate, or unworthy, the universe responds in kind, not as punishment, but as a mirror. The goal is not to fake happiness or force positivity, but to cultivate genuine emotional harmony. It's not about pretending to be rich when you're broke or acting happy when you're not. It's about finding alignment with the truth that abundance, peace, and love already exist within you as frequencies waiting to be expressed. Once that vibration becomes your dominant state, the external world has no choice but to match it. As I look back now, everything my teacher said has proven true. The universe is not a force to be commanded, but a mirror to be understood. It does not choose favorites, and it never denies anyone. It only reflects what is consistently broadcast through the field of consciousness. And consciousness is not limited to thought. It is feeling, awareness, and being. The law of attraction is simply the natural order by which the invisible becomes visible. You cannot fake your vibration. You can only raise it. And when you do, life rearranges itself in ways that appear miraculous to others but feel entirely natural to you. What once seemed impossible becomes ordinary, because you are now aligned with the frequency where it already exists. So here is the secret I learned after years of chasing results and studying under one of the wisest men I have ever known. You do not manifest by demanding. You manifest by remembering. Remembering that you are already part of the infinite field that creates worlds. Remembering that your emotions are the brushstrokes painting reality. Remembering that every desire is simply a signal calling you to rise into a higher frequency of being. When you understand this, manifestation is no longer something you do. It becomes something you are. And now if you wish to test this law for yourself, I will give you the same exercise my teacher gave me on that first night. For the next 7 days, stop asking, stop wishing, stop striving. Simply feel gratitude as if everything you desire has already come to pass. Do this not as a technique, but as a truth. Wake each morning and whisper to yourself, isn't it wonderful? Everything is unfolding perfectly for me now. Watch how life begins to rearrange itself around that vibration. Watch how people, opportunities, and blessings start to move toward you with effortless precision. This is not magic. This is resonance. And once you experience it, you will never again doubt the power that lives within you. The law of attraction is not about changing the world. It is about changing the self through which the world is seen. You are not a small being trying to command the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through a single point of awareness. When you finally accept that truth, lack becomes impossible, struggle becomes unnecessary, and every desire becomes inevitable. You stop trying to manifest and start allowing manifestation to express through you. You realize that creation was never something you had to earn. It was always who you were. That is the hidden mechanism of the law of attraction that most people will never understand. Not because it's secret, but because it's simple. The power was never in the words, the rituals, or the techniques. It was always in the vibration behind them. Change the vibration, and everything else must change. It is not a promise. It is law.